Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So today I want to go ahead and come back to the hardest fight in Dokkan history, which is of course the Festival of Battles. And today I want to go ahead and share with you guys some general key tips that can help you guys have a much easier time as you try to beat this event in its totality, especially if you're still struggling with it to this day. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the vid. Hopefully the vid will be helpful and informative to you. If you guys enjoyed the vid, show your support, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1K subs. Also, comment down below your thoughts. Let us all know what are some personal tips that you know of that you would like to share with the rest of us so that we can all have a much easier time trying to beat this very difficult, challenging fight. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I actually have 5 tips that I want to share with you guys, and tip number 1, probably one of, if not the most important tips in general, is to know how the fight is designed, understand how the fight is formatted in general. And obviously, you know, a lot of people probably have had a chance to try out this fight, see videos of it and everything. This fight is just one stage, but even the missions, right? They ask you to beat, at the end, all 50 phases of the fight itself. When you look at how the fight is designed and everything, starting from the beginning, it starts off very easy. You could blink and the boss will disintegrate. It starts off with the first anniversary Super Gogeta, kind of goes through the timeline of Dokkan's history, if you will, and then ultimately comes to the end with our 50th phase being Super Vegito from the 10th anniversary, and he just does crazy stuff. But obviously, off rip, you can tell 50 phases. This fight is designed to be excruciatingly long. On a good run for like a really decent player with a strong team, you're talking about someone taking at least 2 to 3 hours, and that's just sitting down, just going through it without really taking any breaks. Obviously, if you're taking breaks, if you're trying to figure something out, it could take even longer. So, you know, there's other things to really kind of consider, but at the end of the day, this fight is designed, it is formatted to be a very long fight, a fight that kind of tests you mentally, physically, spiritually, like in your actual physical person, as well as your account in-game in terms of how they can handle a fight that takes so long and takes, you know, a while before it has some insane difficulty spikes. That's the thing about this fight too, is when you look at this fight, again, at the beginning, it is so easy. The only reason you would lose this early kind of phases is for other gimmicks, which we'll talk about in just a sec. But when it comes to the bosses, the first few bosses are so easy, it is not even funny. They're just a joke. And then as you go further and further, you'll notice these bosses get a bit stronger. Of course, you know, they get maybe more HP, more attack, more defensive stats, more damage in general. But, you know, it's still nothing too crazy, right? Like, if we're going to, like, the 6th anniversary right here, these bosses don't even have that much HP, right? But they do have some gimmicks to note, right? Like, MUI can have a 10% chance to dodge. Super Saiyan Blue Evolved Vegeta can increase his damage reduction slightly. For Kid Buu right down here, he is nullifying all damage from melee-specific super attacks, so there's gimmicks here and there. But in general, these are not too difficult, right? As we keep going, all of a sudden, you will see right here, for example, a massive difficulty spike, where 23rd World Tournament Goku has 140 mil HP. Next up is Tanabata Goku, and instead of going to maybe like 200 million or 300 million or something, it goes to 400 million. That is an insane jump in power. Obviously, his super attack damage is insane. Overall, like, there is just an insane difficulty spike in that respect, and then it still keeps going. You know, you still see the bosses get stronger and stronger. Right here near the end of the fight, right, the final few phases, you go from Tekuai Goku, who has 450 million HP with a 10% chance to dodge, some good damage, of course. Then you go to the next phase, which is against Super Saiyan Goku. He has double the HP. 900 million HP for him, which is double what Tekuai had from the previous phase. No dodging, but still insane damage, insane defense. It is insane, and we're still not done, because that's not the final phase. The final phases are down here, where next you have the Daima Bros, right? You know, Glorio and Daima Goku. They both have 800 million HP individually, and then also a bunch of attack and defense and everything. And then the final 2 phases, phase 49 and phase 50, they are, you know, they're featuring the 10th anniversary fusions, and both have 2 billion HP. 2 billion HP plus 7 million attack plus 1.1 to 1.2 million defense. And for Gogeta, he's raising his attack when in a turn with his super, so that can be deadly. And for Vegito, he's doing 3 supers in a turn. So all those things are important to know, which is why, again, I say, you know, it is important that you know what the fight is offering, how the fight is designed, what bosses you have to face, all that sort of stuff. Understand how the fight is designed, because if you don't, that will set you back significantly. You can figure it out as you go through it. You can figure out the little gimmicks and everything. But if you take a chance, like take a few minutes, you know, take maybe like 15 minutes at most to just see the fight, to understand how it progresses, you can save yourself a lot of anguish and trouble on the back end as you actually go through the fight itself. So that's my tip for you guys. As we kind of keep going through, I do kind of want to focus on some other kind of aspects about the fight design, because I didn't really mention them, but I did say earlier, you know, the early phases, you know, it's easy to beat the bosses unless there's certain gimmicks that you mess up on, and this is probably the biggest one right here, which is that in these phases, they include a charge limit. So basically what that means is every time a character gets key spheres, that is 1 charge off your limit, right? So for the first 15 phases, you get 3 charges. What that basically means is you get 1 turn for each phase that you have to beat the phase in. Otherwise, if you go to phase 1 and say you don't beat it within 1 turn, then the game is already over. You lose before you even get rolling. So you have to be careful there. You know, phases 16 to 40, that's 6 charges, so 2 turns. 41 to 48, 9 charges, 3 turns. 49 and 50, the final 2 phases, right, against like the 10th anniversary fusions, those both have 12 charges, which is of course 4 turns. So, you know, you want to pay attention to things like that, including the giant form, you know, rage stats. Those will also count towards the charge count. So, you know, a character who goes into grade 8 mode, they will still, you know, kind of tack into the charge count. So you have to be careful in that sort of respect. So, you know, there's various things that are being offered here. You know, they do even say that you're allowed to take support items. So we'll talk about support items as a separate kind of tip, as a bit of a forewarning, I guess, or like a bit of a spoiler. But yeah, you know, you have to understand how this fight is designed. They want you to take teams, to take characters who are built for long content, but also they don't want you to lollygag and take your time, because if you take your time, then you're going to lose before you can even enjoy the fight and before you can really see the power of the characters that you brought into the team. So that's the main tip I would say right there. Tip number 2, which kind of goes in tandem with this now, is to bring characters who are built for this fight. I just said that, but that is very important, because if you're going to take a fight, if you're going to face a fight that is built to take characters who are built for long content, why would you not try to focus on taking characters who are built for long content, if that makes sense, right? You don't want to pick characters who are better for short form content like Battlehorn from Noble Foes, or average length content like your random red zone or blue zone stage. You need characters who are built for the long, you know, the long-term fights. The ones who will say, yeah, we're gonna lose the battle, but we'll win the war. Like, you need those types of characters. So I'll go ahead and show you guys some of those characters right now. First one I want to talk about is Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku. Now, this is in no particular order and saying like, hey, this is the best character. No, this is nothing like that. But these are just some characters who are really good for you to take advantage of if you have them. And obviously GT Goku right here is one of them. Now, to be fair, the base form for Super Saiyan 3 Goku, he doesn't have any sort of stacking to offer in his base form. He does have the grade 8 transformation, which is for 1 turn, so you have to time that 1 turn to beat a phase efficiently, otherwise you may lose early before you even get started. But once you go into Super Saiyan 4, then you can get the ball rolling, because he's stacking attack and defense with the 12 and 18 key. He's able to provide support to allies. He's doing a lot of support as well with his passive. He's boosting his crit chance, so eventually he will just get guaranteed crits every single time. Of course, when attacking with 24 key, he will launch an additional guaranteed super for more stacking. So this character is really awesome, really fun. I made a separate vid talking about some of the best characters for the event as a whole, and he was obviously on that list, not as a mandatory type of character, but still a character that you would miss if you did not have him. So I'm going to say it again, this character is really awesome. Of course, right here, again, infinitely boosting his crit chance and also infinitely boosting his keys. So that makes things a lot better for him as we go down the fight. But yeah, this guy is really, really awesome. Such a great character. If you have him, use him. Like, I say that with all confidence, use this character for sure. Next up, you know, we'll talk about both of them kind of side by side. The 10th anniversary fusions, right? Like, obviously, both of them have a similar style of format where the base form is going to stack attack. The exchange form into like Goku or Vegeta, in the sense for the Tech Goku right here is going to be Vegeta. The opposite side can basically stack the defense, right? Boost their defensive side of things. And then at the end, you can go into their fusions, which only last for 4 turns, but their fusions, of course, are going to break the game, especially with all the stacking. Now, I will say for these two specifically, a general kind of consensus for a lot of players is you want to stack the defensive side of this character early because you have the damage to get through the phases. You want to get the defensive stacking to 2 million defense on both sides of the unit, Goku and Vegeta side, right? So you want to make sure to get 2 million defense at minimum. Once that happens, then you can go ahead, swap back to the Vegeta side for AGL Gogeta, to the Tech Goku side for the Vegeta unit, and then start to raise your attack, which you will need because those final phases are going to have so much HP and defense. So then you can start to stack your attack, and then near the end is when you want to start to pull out the fusions for these two specific characters. Ideally, probably phases 49 or phase 50 at the latest, right? Because that's how it's going to work. So you want to save the fusions. Understand that the fusions are basically your get out of jail emergency cards that you break in case of glass, you know, whatever. Like, that's what you need the fusions for. So you want to save the fusions in that respect. Keep in the base forms. The base forms will get you through a lot of the whole fight, right? I would say, like, in general, going back to this whole kind of fight, I would say the point where I start to get a bit concerned about their ability is by like, Tech UI, Super Saiyan Goku at some point like that. And even then, they're still handling business. It's just that these bosses have so much to offer. So, at that point, I would say they start to slow down a bit, but still don't use those fusions until you get to these final two phases, I would say. Maybe even not even Gogeta, but at least Super Vegito for sure. So, make sure to use those characters in the best way you can. Make sure to take advantage of both sides of the kit, stacking the defense, stacking the attack. That is going to be very important. We keep on going. Some surprising choices. Today, I want to include some characters who maybe are more accessible for a lot of players who don't have the 10th anniversary like characters and releases. But obviously, one character right here is the Super Saiyan Trunks from the Dragon Ball Super, Goku Black arc. Also, besides him, let me mention him, Dokkan, right? Both characters very interesting because both of them can greatly raise attack and defense with their super attack effects. And that is very, very powerful because with their supers, again, they're boosting both their attack and defense simultaneously. While I love the 10th anniversary fusions, we can't deny one of the more frustrating things about them when it comes to this fight is you have to kind of play back and forth in order to get the stacking to work. So you have to choose to stack attack or to stack defense. You can't do it simultaneously. With Trunks here, with Dokkan right here, they can do both simultaneously. That makes them really, really helpful in terms of maximizing the stacks in its totality. So that's something right there. Of course, both can do a lot of additional supers as well, so that can help them get a lot more stacking as well. These two are probably like prime examples for me of like the explanation of losing the battle but winning the war, because with them, it's not going to be as easy as if you had the 10th anniversary fusions and characters like them. But at the same time, if you find a way to get through those early few phases where these guys, are pretty weak, then they will start to boost, they will start to get really strong, and then they will show you what they're capable of. They can tank, they can do some crazy stat damage. It'll be awesome to see. This fight is really built for stackers, as you can tell, and, characters like these guys who can boost their attack and defense really well, it's great for them. It really is. So, if you don't have the 10th anniversary fusion, some of these other great characters, Super Saiyan Trunks, Teen Gohan right here, like Dokkan, both are really good options if you don't have some of those other really powerful characters in your bag. So, take advantage of them as you can. All right, next up. So, Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and actually besides them, the Tech Gods, right, the 7th year EZAs. Obviously, both are kind of similar to Dokkan and, the Super Saiyan Trunks, where both can raise their attack and defense. This is not with the EZA active, so I don't know why that's the case, but there we go. So both can greatly raise their attack and defense with their base kits and everything with their supers. That is going to be very crucial because with that, they become your main rotation pieces for both sides of the turns, I would say, right? Where on both rotations, you want either of these characters, so that way you have a good, consistent way of basically clearing a phase without losing your chances early on. So, definitely want to make sure to get these guys going. I will say, earlier I mentioned how some of the fights can be kind of dangerous, like near the end. When it comes to like Tech UI and Super Saiyan Goku, that is probably the moment where you would want to look at the 7th year EZAs and say, you know what, now is the time that we just go ahead and transform into Gogeta, into the Super Saiyan Blues, because then you will get more value out of the transformation than if you were to try to continuously stack even more than you already have. So, there's a fine kind of balancing act in that respect, but in general, I mean, these characters are very powerful. If you have them, which I'm sure a lot of people do, these guys are fantastic, especially with dupes. You will know, like, these guys are insane. They've been insane. They're arguably top 1 characters for a lot of people. It says a lot, because these guys are awesome. So even in this fight, they are insane. They're probably even better here than probably in some other content in that respect. But yeah, these guys are fantastic. So if you have them, use them as well. And also, I will say, specifically for the GT duo right here, use them in tandem, if you have them, with the Super Saiyan 4 Goku, because their linking, like their whole link set combination is so powerful, right? You see 6 links right there. That gives them a lot more boost than you would get otherwise. So, use those things to your advantage, right? Links don't make or break the teams, but they can be the difference between you getting over the edge and maybe just falling slightly short. So understand that, right? But you have to kind of figure things out as you will. Obviously, these two characters, really powerful with the 7th year EZAs. The final two I want to mention, right? Kid Goku, right, from the Same Day Celebration, which, to be fair, is over, so you can't pull for this character now, but Kid Goku, as well as the Quest Mode LR Super Saiyan Bardock, who is still out right now, so you can get this character. Both are, really great characters, maybe characters that you didn't expect to be as good, but of course, Goku, he can stack attack and defense, he can do a bunch of supers, he has some nice things to offer, and also, this is kind of a gimmicky kind of thing in his kit, but he still does have a 22% chance of evading every single enemy's attack within a turn for every single attack that he does with 12 more keys. So every single attack he does has its own 22% chance of proccing this, and when it happens, he's going to be safe. So You know, Goku's very powerful, he's very fun. I will say, he's one of those characters more than the others where you do want the dupes in him. If you don't have the dupes, you will feel a difference. You will feel some pain in that respect. But at the same time, he is still a great character for this, especially if you're missing out on some of those other real crazy powerhouses. So bear that in mind, of course. And then Quest Mode Bardock, you know, being a free-to-play LR, right? LR stats and everything. He's able to be 100% him potential. You can get skill orbs for him for free. You know, this character has a lot of customization available to you with no cost, no stone spent or whatever. And he is still really good because he's raising attack, he's able to greatly raise defense with the 18 key, he's got a nice kit to offer, and also, you know, when HP is 60% or less, he has a one-time where he can foresee an enemy super, so that can be helpful in certain situations. He's going to boost his attack and everything. He's got a bunch of nice things to offer, more support, so you love to see that. And right down here, he has an active that just does insane defensive multiplicative kind of boost to his stats. So really, this character is fantastic. He is so awesome. And yeah, I mean, again, like I will say, you know, Bardock, Kid Goku, you know, like Tekkan and Super Saiyan Trunks, those four are specifically, I would say, the characters where if you don't have these other powerhouses like Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku, like the 10th Anniversary Fusions, like, for example, the 7th Year Easy Ace, if you don't have those characters, then I would say these other ones start to become much more desirable because, hey, maybe you don't get through the 50 faces, but they will get you so much further than you probably could have gotten without them. So, you know, you want to take advantage of these characters as you can because they are really helpful, very nice to offer. And I will say, you know, before I kind of go off of this tip, I do kind of want to mention like the opposite of this, right? Because we've been talking about taking characters who are built for this sort of fight. Who are some characters who are maybe not built for this sort of fight? I do kind of want to mention some options just because I want to make sure that people understand that some of the characters that we have been saying are really good are not necessarily good for this fight. Two characters in prime example kind of explanations would be Super Saiyan 2 Gohan and Beast Gohan, right? Two characters that a lot of people, myself included, love these two characters, right? We love these two characters, but Beast Gohan, come on, he is not built for this type of content specifically because obviously he has an intro that lasts for 5 turns. He's just able to get going out the gate, but eventually he starts to get weaker as a fight takes really, really long because he's not the type of character who is boosting himself up to keep up with very lengthy, long fights that require stacking. So Beast, not really a character for that. He still has some nice things to offer, like a taunt and everything, but still at the end of the day, it's just not enough. In the grand scheme of things, it's not enough. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, similar kind of thing where, you know, for Gohan, the reason why I've always felt that I like this Gohan more than Beast is because he stays consistent. He doesn't fall off necessarily as Beast may in terms of the intro condition stuff. But still, the thing with Gohan here is that he may work as a slot 2 or slot 3 character for a lot of the fight. He still doesn't get better as the fight progresses to the point where like he's not continuously stacking. Once you reach turn 5, that's pretty much it. Then you've reached the peak potential of Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, and since he's not getting better, it's just going to be a problem because he's kind of wasting turns in the sense, wasting supers maybe. It's just going to be a problem. So, you know, characters like them, make sure to avoid those types of characters. Take time to read the kits, understand what they can do, understand that you want stackers, because that, at the end of the day, that is going to give you a significant advantage in terms of this fight, in terms of how you want to beat it, how you're going to try to succeed, all that sort of stuff. Now, the third tip I want to mention, right, is to manipulate turns to your advantage. Now, this is one of those tips that I can't really show you in person, unfortunately, but kind of going back to what we saw here for the event description, right? Obviously, they mentioned you have a certain number of charges to beat certain phases, right? So phases 1 through 15, again, 1 turn, 16 to 40 phases. You get 2 turns, 41 to 48, 3 turns, 49 to 50, 4 turns, right? So when I say to manipulate turns to your advantage, what I mean is you want to maximize the turns that they are giving you. If Dokkan is saying, hey, we're giving you a gift, right? For these final like 2 phases, we're going to give you 4 turns, or like, you know, 41 to 48, we're giving you 3 turns. You want to maximize the gift that they are giving you. You don't want to just necessarily blitz through the phase in 1 turn when you have 3 turns that you could use to beat the phase in total, right? So, you know, you want to manipulate turns to your advantage. Of course, understand the first few phases, you cannot afford to do so. You have to blitz through the bosses, which should be pretty easy, but you still have to do so. So you have to understand that. But once you get to the point where you can use multiple turns, then you will want to kind of use those turns to your benefit, getting more stacking, maximizing your stacking, all that sort of stuff. I will say from personal experience, the best runs that I've had have been where I've taken these 2-turn, 3-turn opportunities, and I have deliberately thrown content, I've deliberately thrown units like under the bus so that we can maximize the stacking, so that we can have more turns to stack, do all sorts of stuff, so I can get other characters to eat and to benefit and stuff. So, you know, you really want to use these things to your advantage. You have to play a bit of mind games. You have to be a bit tactical in your approach, which I understand not many people may enjoy that sort of stuff. Me personally, I do. But if you can be a bit more tactical, if you can be a bit more careful with how you approach these like kind of turns and everything, if you could be a bit more methodical in your approach, maximizing the turns, maximizing the stacking, all that stuff, that will be a significant advantage for you as you try to get towards the final kind of phases where honestly you may have all these turns, but they will not give you the opportunity to have breathing room to feel comfortable. So, you know, you want to take advantage of things as they're being given to you. Tip number 3 right there, definitely use these turns to your advantage. Now, tip number 4, kind of a similar kind of tip, I guess, in the sense to like using the turns to your advantage, is to use whatever is being offered to you from the event itself, which specifically means items. Use them. If you need to use items, don't be afraid to use them. You can bring 2 types of support items. You can use whatever you want. You can bring Weeses, Ghost Ushers. You can bring all sorts of stuff. Use them, right? Use these support items because at the end of the day, you're not trying to beat anyone else on PvP. You're trying to beat the content. You're trying to beat the CPU. You're trying to win the fight. And this fight is excruciatingly difficult. Don't get me wrong. Even with items, it can still be difficult. So you can imagine, of course, how difficult it can be without items. If you need the items to get the success, if you need the items to get the win, use them. There is no shame in doing so. I've said it in previous vids. I'll say it again. I wouldn't say that everyone in like the Dokkan community is of the mindset that, you know, items are bad or whatever. I don't think really at the end of the day people care. But, you know, there are some times where people say, oh my god, no item runs, come on. Like, you know, at the end of the day, it's your account. It's your game. It's your whole kind of event, challenge, everything. If you gotta do what you gotta do, do it. It's perfectly fine to use these items. They're letting you do so. Why not, you know, why not take advantage of the gifts that are being handed out to you? That's what I'll say right there. Tip number 4, use the items as needed. Don't be afraid to use items. Tip number 5. Now, this one may be kind of Mickey, but at the same time, I think it is a very valid tip in the grand scheme of this whole kind of event, which is to be patient. Be patient with this event because at the end of the day, again, this is an event where on a good run with powerful characters like the 10th anniversary fusions and the 7th year EZAs and everything, it is still going to take you basically 2 to 3 hours on a good run where you just sit down and just go through the whole event. And realistically, that's probably not good for anyone. So, you know, be patient. If you need to take a break from the game, do so. You know, if you start the event and you're like halfway through and you're saying, hey, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I want to go for a walk, you know, I have to take out my dog or something, or I just want to go hang out with my friends, go do all that stuff. You know, do what you gotta do. If you're like, hey, I need to take a shower because I've been sitting in my like freaking chair or whatever you gotta do. Take breaks, be patient, and, you know, take your time. You know, if you have to come back to the event, do so, because at the end of the day, trust me, this event is not going to leave. It's going to stay for a while. So why not, you know, take your time. If you have to take breaks so that you can rejuvenate yourself. Because I will say, from my experience, from the experience I've seen from friends and other people in the Dokkan community, one of the most annoying things, one of the biggest challenges about this fight, even beyond the fight itself, is the taxing kind of effect it has on you mentally, physically, and, you know, just in terms of your emotions or whatever, just trying to focus. Because you're focusing on the game, it's taking so long, you're just like, I want to get this done, and it messes you up sometimes. So you really want to, you know, take breaks, which I guess now that I think about it, sounds like a more of a general kind of tip for life. But when it comes to this event, again, I think that also kind of works there, where take your breaks, be patient, you will beat this event. It's gonna happen. Everyone is gonna beat this event at some point or another. It's just that if you're trying to beat it sooner rather than later, you need to take the breaks. You need to take the chances to kind of collect yourself and to gather your thoughts, to kind of regain your energy so that you can come back sharper and avoid making maybe some very critical mistakes near the end of the fight, where it can basically cause you to rage if you lose, right? So, you know, I would say be patient in that respect. But there you go. So those are the 5 tips. Again, you know, if you guys have other tips that you'd like to share with the rest of us, leave them in the comments down below. Share your tips, share your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about the whole kind of vid in general, of course. I mean, other than that, I mean, again, if you guys enjoy the vid, again, drop a like, you know, show your support, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 1K subs. Every time you guys subscribe and everything, that helps us get closer to that goal. So, I mean, I really can't thank you enough, and that's in terms of the support and everything. But other than that, yeah, I mean, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, stay blessed, and I will see you all in the next one.